Hey race fans, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Helmet, where we get to speak to some of our favorite motorsports drivers. I'm your host, Sean, and this episode is extra special because I have not one, but an entire panel of guests from NASCAR who are going to give us an inside look at the ins and outs of being a driver on the track. So let's just jump into it and meet our guests. So I will start off. So racing in the NASCAR Cup Series for Chip Ganassi Racing and making his Real Racing 3 debut, very cool. NASCAR's busiest driver, the Melon Man himself, Ross Chastain. Thanks for joining us today, Ross.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
So you've got a couple of different monikers, including the busiest man in NASCAR, the busiest driver in NASCAR, and Melon Man. So, how you just collect like nicknames as you go?
Well, we've backed off from the busiest. I've given up that title. I've passed that on to the next guy. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. It's a cool tagline and stuff, and it's in the right circumstances is great and served a really good purpose a few years ago. But tried to back down from that, and but we're not backing down from watermelons, like you said. I can't get away from watermelons. My brother and I are 8th generation watermelon farmers, so it's what we do, and it's in our blood.
That's crazy. I saw you have like your own store with watermelon apparel and everything everywhere.
Yeah, we have the Melon Man brand. We've all got, every driver has racing merch and different stuff with car numbers and teams and our names and our signatures. And I was just looking for something a little different. We still have all that for the true race fan that wants a big NASCAR shirt with the sponsors and the numbers and all that. It screams America and NASCAR, right? But we also wanted something just a little more of the lifestyle brand of watermelons and give people a reason to smile other than racing. And I don't know, when people talk to me at least about watermelons, they smile. It reminds them of their childhood. It reminds them of summer days, happy times, no matter what. So that's what we try to bring to people with the Melon Man brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being an 8th generation watermelon farmer, that's a pretty incredible thing. It's awesome.
It's they tried everything else and didn't work. So back to watermelons.
You found it. You got your spot. That's great. Awesome. So our next driver, joined by the all-time winningest female driver in United States Auto Club history, up-and-coming driver, Toni Breidinger. Toni, we are so excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I love being here.
So you have been driving since you're really young. So what kind of got you started, and then what are your NASCAR ambitions?
Yeah, so I started in go-karts when I was 9, so this has been like a 12-year journey. But pretty much my dad just asked me and my twin sister Annie, do you guys want to go go-karting? And I knew nothing about racing at the time, and I just thought it sounded fun. And I just fell in love with it. And as soon as I got my first go-kart, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I told my parents I want to be a race car driver. They thought it was a phase, but it's not. I'm still here. And for me, like, my goal is to reach the Cup Series one day, hopefully. So that's currently what I'm working towards.
Yeah, we're rooting for you here. We really want to see you get to that point so we can get you in our game.
Yes, that'd be super cool.
And you were saying before we started here that you've actually played. You're a Real Racing 3 fan, sort of.
Yeah. No, I used to play all the time on road trips going up to the go-kart track. I used to be like in the back seat playing it. I just remember my dad would be on these bumpy roads, like hitting bumps. I'm like, you're messing up my game. And yeah, it's really funny because I did actually used to play this a bunch. That
is incredible. Do you play many video games, or did you play many video games?
I used to just love like all the racing games. Like, honestly, I think that was my favorite game, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on here. I actually loved that game, but I'm not like a big gamer. I just loved that one and anything like racing related.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see. We have had some players or some drivers try to play our game, and the difference is it's so different, obviously, that they're not very good at it. Maybe you can give some of our players a run for their money.
Exactly, I can give them some pointers.
That'd be amazing, awesome. And then finally, returning to our show and boasting too many impressive accolades to even list, with 26 career NASCAR Cup Series victories, Joey Logano. Joey, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here. Glad to talk about this amazing game again. It's been really cool to be involved with this, and obviously having your car in a video game, like that's always been a really cool piece of this. So I was listening. Who was I talking to today? It was one of the drivers, and he said, when you made it when you're in the video game. So this has always been something pretty neat for me.
Absolutely. Do you know how many video games you've been in?
Well, I'm 12 years into this now at the cup level. So this is I don't know that answer off the top of my head, but it's funny when you start to look on social media or you talk to kids and say, "Oh, I wrecked you last night on the video game." Yeah, it's funny, kind of to hear that, and or maybe I wreck them in the video game too, and I don't even know. So either way, it's funny listening to everyone's experiences with that part of it.
That's true. Just becoming like a video game character, you kind of like transcended, media. And I know, we talked last time you were in Sharknado 3, which we're a big fan of here at the studio. But then, to be like a video game character, it's a pretty awesome piece of pop culture.
Yeah, it's a unique piece of it, right? When you start racing, you don't think that, right? You go because you want to be a NASCAR champion, right? That's the goal from when you start. I want to get to the cup level. I want to win a championship. When you're 6 years old and you start doing this, that age behind me, when I started there, that was it. And then there's some cool things that come along with it along the way, right? Like being in video games and stuff like that. You just don't know what comes around the corner next sometimes. Makes it interesting, makes it exciting. It's a bit of a roller coaster. So I'm talking about all the highs. Obviously, the other three on here know the amount of work and effort that goes into making it, knows the highs and the lows of the sport. You can be winning one week and the next week you're flipping down the racetrack. I know that experience this week. It's just what the sport is.
No, absolutely. And we will get back to that. But first, I know, last year we talked about, the NASCAR during the pandemic and how crazy, 2020 was, and I kind of want to talk about, how that's informed, this year. So I know last year, there were times where there were no fans in the stands and, your limited interactions between you and your crew and everything. So, how is that kind of carried over to the new season? What is 2021 NASCAR like, Joey? Can you help us out? What's that like?
Yeah, we're slowly reopening, which I'm so excited about. It's great to have the coverage that we have that Fox and NBC brings to be able to watch our races. It's great to have real racing that shows, kind of a similar thing for fans to get kind of the experience of what it's like behind the wheels, the closest thing you can do, with the ability to just buy a console and go racing. Can't do that, get that you can with racing. So we've been able to take advantage of a lot of virtual pieces, a lot of things you can do from home, which has been great, but there's still nothing like being at the racetrack.
Right.
There's nothing like it. That's what hooks people. If you ask me, I remember my first race. I'm sure everybody remembers going to their first race, and you watch these cars come by you at 200 miles an hour the first time. It's just like a holy cow moment, that's awesome. They're loud, the whole ground's shaking when you got that much power coming by you that fast. It's insane. So being able to have fans have that experience again, coming back to the racetrack. I know for me, just watching cars going on a racetrack is still something that gets me excited. So I want everyone to have that same experience.
I've been to Daytona a few times, and it is, you just, you watch it on TV and you see it and everything, and it's so controlled, with what they're showing you and stuff. But being there on the ground and having that experience, you're right, there's just really nothing like it.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. It's about that ground pounding, just raw action, emotion that just comes along with it. So much fun.
Absolutely. So now, Ross, you've been racing for 10 years, in NASCAR. So, how have the changes impacted you? Like, how does it, how's it changed, the way you train? Like, how are things going on your end?
Yeah. For me, I'm a big people person. So especially before I got into the Cup Series, and trucks and Xfinity for smaller teams, or just a smaller shop, a smaller group of boys and girls working on the cars and trucks. It was a lot for me about just during the week, just driving to all those different shops around Mooresville, Concord, Statesville, around this area of Charlotte, and just interacting with a crew guy, a crew chief, a general manager, another driver, but more the guys behind the scenes of truly just trying to find my little niche to find a truck to go test, or somebody's going to miss practice. Let me drive it, or somebody's going to miss a race. Let me be your guy. And that would have ended. Luckily, I was already established with college racing last year in Chip Ganassi Racing. And so with Josh Wise and our Team Chevy program, we have to be the best race car drivers we can be inside the car. We actually, through the pandemic, we all kind of were in our own little bubble, and we just hit it even harder. Unfortunately, I thought it would be kind of a little easy coast when we got shut down last year, but Josh ramped it up and we worked even harder. So it's paid off now. But yeah, I did not expect that to ride more miles, to run more miles, to do all the things that we do on normal race week. We did it times a bunch whenever we were not racing. So, we're slowly getting back in the swing of things. I can be in the shop more now. But we've got our masks on all day, and it's still that. I think we're about to. I hope we're about to take a big step with the vaccine, right? So, I've got my first shot, waiting on my second, and a lot of the guys were kind of on the same timetable. Some of them, and so that just gives me more confidence to, not have it in the back of my head. But just that way I can go do my job, right? Just drive race cars. Some guys go flip on Sundays. I don't want to do that, but we want to go race cars and do the best we can, and that's a lot of leg work throughout the week. So I need that face-to-face interaction. That's just how I am. Not great with technology. Obviously, I was a little late coming on here, but I want to see my crew chief. I want to see my engineers. I want to see my car chief, my underneath guys. Like, I want to see them every week, and I want to have that relationship with them. And last year it was tough.
Yeah, well, being kind of behind the scenes, like the garage, there's such a sense of community and everything. And I would assume, like last year, obviously, I talked to some of the other drivers, and it was extremely tough. So has that kind of gotten back to normal, or is it a new normal?
No, not normal. And I don't know that we should go back to normal. I'm not going to say that the old normal was right or was good. We can be better. And so that's the biggest thing for me, is that there's less interaction in the motor. Like I've only taken my motor home to the Daytona races. I didn't even take it to Homestead. I just drove over from Fort Myers. It was 3 hours away, and then flew home. So I don't, that we've lost a lot of that interaction where we would, we were there 3 days or 2 nights, and a couple of us go to dinner or go to lunch one day when we didn't have anything going on, and we don't have that anymore.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really tough. Something completely, alien. But like you said, change isn't necessarily bad, right? So excellent. And then, so Toni, this is your first year competing in a NASCAR series. Has it been hard to adjust to that with the lack of interaction with some of the fans, or just things being somewhat quieter than I guess they used to be?
Yeah, definitely. It's I don't have too much to compare it to, but I know fan interaction is always something that I love doing. So that's always kind of like disappointing to not see that many fans in the stands or be able to do autograph sessions and all that. So I'm definitely looking forward to starting to do that again. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is lack of practice. I think especially with being a rookie, not being able to practice is probably the hardest aspect of it. So I kind of have to play catch up a little bit more, and it's not like I can go talk to a bunch of people about it. But my team's been really great. They've been really supportive. And I feel like I have a good close group around me to get me through it all.
Yeah. So you mentioned the lack of practice. So what is the impact of that? What would you normally do? And then kind of what are you restricted to do now?
Yeah, so I know for the truck series, you can't go practice. So that's kind of why I'm I don't want to necessarily jump into the truck series before I get ARCA races under my belt, because I haven't gone on most of these tracks before. So at least with the ARCA series, we get a little bit of practice. We didn't at Talladega, but we have a little bit of practice with that. But that's kind of what's holding me back from making my truck debut, just because I really want to make sure I'm ready and prepared. I don't want to just go out there on the track for my first time when we have to go racing.
Yeah, so you also mentioned that you haven't been able to kind of get some of that one-on-one time with some of the elder drivers and stuff. So do you feel like you're missing out on part of the start of your career here?
A little bit. I do feel like once I'm at the racetrack, I'm kind of more focused. I'm not one to go talk to a bunch of people anyways. But I do miss like a little bit of interaction and just having, being able to just go up to anybody and like ask questions and just kind of like bounce ideas off of each other. I do miss that. But again, my team's really great and they're always just like around me. We're like a close bubble. So it's really great that I can communicate easily with them.
Yeah, no, that is great. And how do you see it? Do you see it getting better? Ross was just saying that maybe it wasn't. Maybe things weren't where they should have been. With social distancing, do you see it getting where people are kind of back to normal, or do you think it's going to just kind of be a continuing like adjustment?
I do feel like it's going to start getting back to normal, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to be normal per se. I feel like there's just going to be changes in general. I don't think change is bad. I think change can be good. But I think there'll kind of be like a new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. And I think, we're looking at that, from over here in Australia and everything, and, across the motorsport world, it's just, everyone's kind of readjusting. It's really interesting to see. And I think, America obviously had some trouble with the virus, a huge trouble with the virus last year, and that impacted things. But to see like the rollout going so well, it'll be interesting. I think a lot of people are watching America to see how that rolls out. So it'll be very interesting to watch. So Joey, you brought this up, and I kind of wanted to touch on this. So obviously you were involved in a really, visually horrific crash at Talladega. So, you had some really pointed words to say about it, and it's obviously been dominating a lot of the talk the last few days. So, would you mind just kind of talking a little bit about that, and how you think NASCAR should go about changing things?
Absolutely. My initial reaction when I got out of the car is I was smiling just because I was happy I was alive. Yeah. I wasn't mad that I crashed or was out of the race. I just said, I'm okay. I walked in the infield care center, my hands up and yelling, I'm alive, I'm all right. Because I felt like, my initial reaction was that I was happy. And then give me 10 minutes later, and I started to get angry, almost, to a completely different emotion. Because I was mad that we were in the situation in the first place, and how do we make it better? That became my new goal here the last few days, is just how do we as a team, as an industry, come together and say, okay, we were really close to losing Ryan Newman a year ago. And when I'm in the car after I roll over, my head's cocked to the side because I got the roll bar in my head. I'm thinking, boy, all it was going to take was one hit and Bubba barely missed me. And I'm not sitting here doing this interview today. So you have to look at it from a different perspective all of a sudden. And you probably don't think this way until it happens to you. And I should have thought this way when it happened to Ryan Newman more aggressively than I did even then. And saying, okay, how do we fix this? Is it the car? Is it the rules package? What do we do? We have the next gen car coming up next, right? It's going to be a completely new car. You sit lower in a car. It's good for me. I'm pretty tall. So that's a nice piece. So that'll help. But we still have 2 more races this year at Daytona and Talladega, super speedways, where you see these big crashes, and we can't have cars blowing over. That's what happened to me. I got spun out. Boom. Next thing you know, I'm upside down. I didn't even get hit. We cannot have that. And you look at the things that can cause that. To me, I look at the big spoiler on the back of the car. That's probably the blaring, obvious thing that's sitting in front of us. That big spoiler does quite a few things. It punches a bigger hole in the air. It creates bigger runs. If you look at where we crash all the time, it's on the straightaways, and it's from pushing down the straightaways, from pushing and banging. You don't see cars spin out in the corner anymore because with this big spoiler. The other piece of that spoiler is when you turn a car around backwards, it's creating lift. Yeah. Some car created 3,500 pounds of lift when it went up in the air. So you got to look at that. Also, does that big spoiler affect what the roof flaps do? Obviously, it does. A roof flap is on top of the car to help create downforce when the car is going backwards. When you put a big spoiler there, it's not getting clean air to it. So it's not as effective either. To me, the obvious fix is let's go back, take that spoiler off. Runs won't be as big. You'll still have the great big pack racing that fans love. We've had that for years. It's always going to be like that. So there's nothing to worry about that. It just creates a different type of pack, a more controllable pack. We're still going to have crashes, but hopefully the cars stay on the ground more so. And I think that's what's key. None of us want to see a driver get hurt or worse. I know I don't want to see that. I know, my kid screaming on the phone after I FaceTimed when I was in the infield care center. That changes your perspective quite a bit in these situations that we all need to be our best advocate and saying, how do we get better? And no doubt in my mind, NASCAR is the safest race car you can drive. Hands down, you can't get in a safer race car. But it's that way because of the attitude that the sport has had. Not just the NASCAR uppers, but the individuals in the sport are always looking to make it better. And this is an opportunity for us to continue to make it better, not only for us and our families, but for the next generation. Think about where we were in the 60s and generation, our cars have gotten better and better and better. And that's because we have that attitude of innovating safety. And we need to look at that even for the next 2 races this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Just seeing the footage from the various angles, it just was incredible. Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to walk away from that. Obviously, we were talking about it quite a bit. Oh yeah, I mean, just insane that and the fact that you were able to walk away from it more or less unscathed. That's incredible.
Yeah, that part's good. I just got some minor bruising and a little sore, but outside of that, I'm good to go, ready to go for the next race.
Yeah.
Which is nice, right? Like I said, we have great cars for that reason. That's why we get to go next week. And I've crashed a lot harder in a video game,
Yeah.
better than I do right now. So there's a big plus for racing virtually.
That's true. Yeah. You're not flipping. You're not literally flipping over the air. So that's always a good plus.
That reset button's nice, man.
Yeah. The do-over. So
it costs nothing too.
Exactly. Yeah. Easy. So Ross, you've seen some crashes already this season as well. So I guess my question is what is your perspective on that, and what is it like to walk out of something like that?
It feels good. I probably had a higher impact hit this Sunday than you probably, Joey. But it didn't even it wasn't even on TV, right? They didn't catch it, didn't show it. I crossed the line. First time in my career I've crossed the line with a completely clean. We could have changed the tires, filled it up with gas, and raced again on Monday. When I crossed the line, and about 100 feet later, I hit the wall and pulled about 20 G's. So same as Joey, a little sore, but it feels good to get out, right? It's good. I was the same way. I got out, and safety guys got there, and I just looked at him and I was like, "Good to see you." It's actually good to see you. So I mean, they it's just it's part of, we know it. And I talked to my guy on the way back to the care center. We took the Tour de Talladega through the infield, headed there, but I was asking him. He's been doing it since I think he said 84, and he's only missed a couple races. We're like, wow, you've seen a lot of us. He's like, yeah, seen most of them across across the years. And I said, well, thank you for being here, first of all, but what do you see has changed? Because now y'all get out, and he said, you just talked to us. He said, used to, they were constantly catching their breath. They're holding their arm. They're holding their side. Those impacts used to affect them a lot more. So we have to keep moving the needle, like Joey said. And I agree that these cars, we got to keep them on the ground. That's why they've done some things to slow us down, keep us under that 200 magical number. But it doesn't really matter. I don't think when you're at our speeds, the pushes from the straightaway are the hardest part about racing at Daytona and Talladega. And you've got this tall piece of metal, and then Lexan above that. I think there's been some oversight. So Joey's leading the charge, and there's a bunch of us that are, supporting from behind the scenes to say, go. He doesn't need us to say it, but go, make change and make this better for all of us. Because the biggest reason we can put on such exciting racing at these places is that we're not afraid. We're not afraid to wreck.
Right.
We just there's a certain line, and the line is we want to stay on the ground. And I think right now that's the line we've got to draw. And we keep us on the ground, let us do our jobs, let us put on a great race, and we'll trust all the safety gear to do its job. But upside down, that's a whole new level that we're not ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, you really, I think, hit the nail on the head. I mean, how can you get behind the wheel of a car and do your job if you're, worried you're going to be launched in the air, right? So, I mean, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at very, very carefully.
Well, I think one other thing is that if you get into a car and you are scared, you shouldn't be in it, right? And that's if you're in the cup field, you're not afraid of it. There's just we're smart enough. We're a big enough sport. We're literally the biggest in North America. Mm-hmm. Let's work on this problem. It's not just, all right, yep, Joey made it. Pat him on the back, send him on to Kansas and show up to Daytona in a few months and be good to go. Like, we're big enough and we're big boys and girls. Let's find what can work. And the ideas he has are when he says them out loud, I'm like, wow, that's really simple. There's a reason we took the wings off these cars, right? Joey's old enough. He lived through the whole wing saga. I wasn't even racing yet.
Is that a dig? Or you Joey's age, man?
I think we're the same.
I don't know. He might have more hair than me now, though. So I don't know. He's got a better beard for sure.
well, Tony's got you beat at being only 21. So and speaking of Tony, you were in a crash when you were younger where you broke your arm and you had to sit out one of your races back in the day, and then seeing something like this like what Joey just went through or like Ross is just talking about, like how does that impact you?
Yeah, I don't want to jinx myself, but I haven't been in like a crazy big wreck besides like the little go-kart wreck when I was younger. Like in like these stock cars, I really haven't been in like a crazy wreck. I hope I'm not jinxing myself right now. But yeah, I feel like I'm almost kind of naive to it. Like, obviously I'm like, wow, like obviously like, things need to be done and changed to avoid that. But I just can't, like, when I see stuff like that, I don't get like concerned for myself, probably just because it's more like ignorance and like being naive. But I'll see wrecks on the racetrack and I don't go bypassing them thinking like, oh, I'm scared that's going to happen to me next. But I do think that things definitely need to be changed. And I do feel really safe in these race cars. But, I feel like we do need to make some changes to them to always make them a little bit safer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I actually had heard another interview with you where basically it said that you're on the racetrack, you've got it and everything, but on the regular road, you're actually like a really scary driver. Is that true?
Well, nobody lets me drive. I'm a good driver. I'm a really good driver. They tell me I drive too slow, but I'm like, I drive safe. Like, I'm not like you wouldn't be like, oh, she's a race car driver when I'm like driving on the street. I keep it like at the speed limit. I'm a safe driver. I'm not like an aggressive person. Like besides like in the race car, that's like a different me. But like in my day-to-day life, like I'm not like, I don't get road rage. Like I'm just like, guys, this is chill. We're not on a racetrack. But yeah, like nobody ever lets me drive anywhere, any of my friends.
You just focus that all when you're like on the racetrack.
Exactly. I'm like, I get all my need for speed out on the racetrack. I'm like, I don't need to speed right now. I'm also like really bad with directions, which I understand is like frustrating for people, but I'm like, I still get you to your destination safely. But yeah, it's always like an argument. Nobody ever lets me drive.
Oh man, watch out, guys. Yeah, it just sounds like a recipe for what's going to happen there on the track. So, all right. So between, obviously the last couple of years, the pandemic and everything, and then obviously there's been some recent massive social shifts like in the US and everything. And then, that's really impacted NASCAR quite a bit. So, Ross, you've been around, you've been racing in NASCAR for the past 10 plus years or so. How has NASCAR evolved,
in every aspect. And I've only been here, like I said, since 2011. But yeah, it's I'd say it's been more recent though. Obviously a lot of things have happened in the last year or two. And, from the upper management side of NASCAR, they took a hard look at themselves and all of us. And there was some honest, good, open conversations, both internally in the sport and publicly, and some of the things, right? That's what's so great about sports is that it's real. There is no script. We are reacting to the world, and we're reacting to our on-track performances and stuff all in real time. There's the only script is that say your sponsors, thank your team, and thank God that you made it through it and you're racing and that we're living this life, right? That's in my mind, that's what an interview is about. And then everything else is just whatever comes out. And so I think it's the same thing for people watching is that, they can take and go Sunday afternoon, like prime time for a NASCAR race, and take that time to unplug from the rest of the world, right? It's scary times, but I talk to my granddads. I'm fortunate enough to have all four of my grandparents alive and well, and I talk to them weekly, and they bring up the examples of things they remember from way back, when they were young and before they were married, and like just examples of things that happened in society, and it wasn't good then either. Like there's things that are bad. The biggest thing I think NASCAR that we have going for us as a sport, and all sports are good for, is that it's a release. It's an escape for anybody in the world to turn on a NASCAR race, and for those 3 or 4 or whatever hours, just don't put your phone, or be on your phone, whatever, but you can put your phone down, watch a race, cheer for a guy, root against a guy, cheer for a wreck, whatever, dig in as much or as little as you want, and you can just escape the rest of the world for those 3 hours. And I think that's where I feel like our niche is that sports are the greatest escape from the real world. We're a sport. We're competing. Really outside of our sport, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. It's just about for a lot of it's the competition, and for a lot of people watching, that's what it's about. So I think that's really the coolest thing we have going for us. And then it's just continuing to evolve. We just like as I said earlier, the normal of pre-COVID doesn't I don't think is what I want to go back to. We can be better. We can all be better, and we can be better every day, every week, every year. Yeah. But as a sport, there's a lot of things we can do better than we did 2 years ago, and I'm here for it, and I want to be a part of that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the evolution of everything, and kind of the reflection, NASCAR being such a great American, sport, being a huge sport, and the reflection of, everyone who's in America within the sport is a really cool thing to see. And then, and you're kind of jumping off of that. So, Toni, there's actually been a lot written, about you, being the first female Arab American driver, which is, incredible. That's really cool. But, do you kind of see yourself as, a pioneer, as part of the new generation of a more, not necessarily diverse, but like I said, a more of a reflection of where America is now?
Yeah, I do hope that I'm helping pave the way. I do feel like the sport's becoming more progressive, and I do feel like it's also becoming more diverse, which I think is really exciting. I hope I'm making a difference, even if I'm making a small difference. That makes me happy. I think the sport's moving in the right direction. We're taking steps to get better with being more diverse and everything. So it's exciting. I feel like I'm starting to see just more diversity, in the garage and at the tracks and everything. So I think that's really exciting. I think it's also something that's going to help broaden the fan base as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think are you seeing a lot more diversity in the fans? You think being a female driver, do you see a lot more women kind of gravitating toward you in the sport?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of females coming up through the ranks that aren't necessarily in the top 3 series of NASCAR. There's only a few of them right now, but there's a lot of young girls coming up, which is really exciting. And I feel like for the most part, I get so many messages just on social media from younger girls, just asking me about racing, saying they want to get involved and how to get started. So it's exciting. I feel like more people are getting interested in it, and there's a lot of younger girls interested, asking me questions. So I'm always trying to answer them and help them out and just help pave the path for them.
That's amazing. And is there anything in your opinion, that could be done to kind of, make NASCAR a little bit more inclusive?
Honestly, I think it's just about bringing awareness and having like equal representation of everybody. I think like for me, I feel like social media helps a lot. I feel like, the times have changed and social media helps you reach such like a broader width of people. And I feel like for me, just like really just like showing people that there is, different faces racing, there is diversity in the sport. And I feel like social media is just the easiest way to reach a bunch of people. And I feel like once people see, like, you just need a driver to connect to. And I feel like once you kind of connect to a driver and you see somebody that you really connect to and can root for, then you'll go want to watch the races. You just have to see somebody that you can kind of relate to a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think it's kind of that reflection of who, the American people, and the global. I mean, NASCAR is shown around the world, and everything. And, we're a global racing, game and everything. So, we love seeing the diversity, and NASCAR is really, one of the most diverse motorsports in the world. We kind of look at the drivers, the makeup of the drivers and everything. So it's a really awesome thing to see. And then, so Joey, you've obviously been around for a long time. You're the grandfather of the group here, or whatever. But, how do you see, how do you see NASCAR changing and evolving like even further? Like, you've kind of seen it. You've been around for so long. You've kind of seen where it's been, where it's at, where's it going?
Well, I think you never know where things are going to go, but it's all about attitude, right? We talked about attitude, about the safety of our sport. Well, it's also the progression of our sport and our culture as well. That attitude will progress you in whatever you do in life, whatever industry you're in, whatever your job is. Attitude is the number one thing that moves you forward and thinking in the right direction. I look at where our sport has been, where it has come to, and where it will go. There's been so much movement there. And I look at the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program that started 15 years ago, at least, maybe longer. Don't quote me on that. But it's been a long time. And you look at the amount of diversity drivers that have been successful, not even just drivers, but pit crew members and other, whether it's in marketing or you name it. I have seen the sport change a lot over the period of time. We have made tremendous progress. Does that mean we made enough? Absolutely not. But we have made great progress. And I think that's something that we need to speak about. We need to talk about is the gains that we have made. Yes, there's always the mountain to climb ahead of us. We're never where we want to be. I understand that completely, and we are working that direction. But we have made a big change from being the NASCAR Southeastern roots of the sport to being a nationwide global brand that you look at NASCAR as today. That's a progressive attitude, and attitude keeps pushing forward. So I am proud to say that I'm part of that, for the last few years at least. And like I said, it's all about leaving the sport in better condition than it was when you got there. That's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I don't care how many races you win. I don't care anything about that, how many races you start, whatever. It's about what you have done for the sport in the next generation. To me, that's what I think Hall of Famers are about. That's what I try my hardest at, is to do that and try to give as much as you take in the sport. And because it's given so much for us. Think about all three of our lives. Our sport is done so much for our lives, at this point. And, it would be so selfish not to look how to make it better for the next generation. So that's been a goal of mine here the last probably 7-8 years of working that direction. And I'm proud to see where the sport has come at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I grew up, watching NASCAR and, I just remember sitting in my uncle's basement and, everyone sitting around, having a few drinks and watching NASCAR and just to see where it was, back then to where it is now. I just think NASCAR is in a really exciting time. And I think, this group kind of really shows that.
Absolutely. A lot of great young talent coming up and a lot of new things, which is fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, I've kept you guys long enough, and I really, really appreciate it. So, Joey, Ross, Toni, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great to have you. The 2021 NASCAR season well underway. Can't wait to see how you guys do. We've been watching it, and now it's time for our players can jump in and take on the game. The new NASCAR season is in game now, so choose Joey or Ross. Sorry, Tony's not there quite yet, but we're one to watch. Really excited, and we'll keep racing.